In this video, you will learn how to authenticate a user with Firebase and Flutter. The first thing you need is to go on console.firebase.google.com and create a brand new project. And I will call this one Flutter Pro Firebase. And now, continue. Next, AI assistant for your product. I don't like Gemini, so continue. Google Analytics, we can accept this. Select an account, default account for Firebase, create a project. So this will take maybe 30 seconds, so you can wait for this. And after this, I will show you what to do. Perfect. You can click on continue next. And from there, what we need to do is connect Flutter with Firebase. And to do this, you can do it manually like this, or you can use the Firebase CLI. This will go much faster. So for this video, I will show you how to connect with Firebase CLI. You will go on Google, you will write Flutter Firebase CLI, and you will select this link, add Firebase to your Flutter app. Once you're inside this section, you will need to scroll down until you find the section, if you haven't already, install the Firebase CLI. So we will install this. I will open this in a new tab, and then I will click on the section macOS. If you are on Windows, click Windows. This will bring you to this section, and what you will need to do is copy this line of code. So you need to install the Firebase tools. We will go back inside the terminal, and you can paste this thing and press enter. This will install the Firebase tools, and you can see that I already have this inside my computer. If you need to upgrade your Firebase tool, you can run this command and press enter. Then you will need to put the password of your computer and press enter. So now I have the latest version of the Firebase tool. What is the next step? What you need to do next is to run the Firebase login. I will go back inside my terminal and I will paste this inside. You will see that I am already logged in inside my test account, fluttermap@gmail.com. So what I will do is I will say Firebase logout and I will log in once again. Now it's time to run Firebase login once again and you will see what is the process. First, you need to say yes, and then you will open a new tab. From there, you will select your Google account and you will press continue. Then you click allow. Perfect. So you have connected Firebase CLI and now you should be logged in. So let's go back inside the terminal so you can see that we have successfully logged in. All right, so easy peasy lemon squeezy. What should be the next step? If you scroll down, you will see that you should run this thing, Firebase project list. This will just show you a list of all your projects. So it's not really important. And next, if you scroll down, you will eventually find a section called Firebase init. But this is to initialize a Firebase project, not necessarily with Flutter. So we don't need to run this. So for now, we can close this page and we can go back to this one. The next thing to do is we have already logged in, so we need to activate the Flutter Fire CLI. I will copy this and I will go back inside my terminal and paste this and press enter. Perfect. So now we can set up Firebase with Flutter inside our application. The next thing to do is to run the Flutter Fire configure. I will copy this, I will go inside my terminal and I will paste and press enter. So this will fetch all the available Firebase project. And if you remember at the start, we created our project called Flutter Pro Firebase. And you can see that you have the option create a new project from this place, but sometimes it will create bugs. So I prefer to create the project from the console and then select it from this place. So we will click Flutter Pro Firebase and press enter. After this, because I only want to set this up with Android and iOS, I will press space in order to remove the macOS web and Windows. From there, we can press enter. All right, so this will register the application for iOS and Android. So if we go back inside our console and we refresh, you will see that the Android should already be set up. And you can see that the Flutter Pro Android is set up. This is pretty good. And if we go back inside the terminal, you see that this is registering the iOS app at the moment. All right, so everything has completed. So if we go back inside the console and we refresh, you will see that the two applications are registered. The one with Android and the one with iOS. So this was way faster than doing it manually like this and putting all the bullshit inside your project. So I will close this and I will go back inside this section. So the next step is you will click on build and you will click on authentication. At this place, we need to click get started. All right, so you can authenticate your user with many different ways. But inside this video, I will show you how to do it with email and password. For this, you will need to enable the email and password and click save. So that's good for the email and password, but we still need one more thing in order to initialize Firebase with our Flutter project. You will go back inside this page, you will scroll down, and you will find this section, Firebase pub add Firebase core. So let's copy this and go back inside the terminal, paste it, and press enter. This will add the Firebase core inside your dependencies. If you scroll down inside the section pubspec.yalm, you will find the Firebase core. Next, we go back inside the internet. We copy the next line, which is the Flutter configure. This is just to confirm that everything is set up correctly. So let's go back inside the terminal, paste this, and press enter. And now because we have already configured everything, we can just say yes in order to reuse everything. And you can see that we don't have any error, so this is good. And next what we need to do is to add these two imports. So I will copy them and go back inside the main.dart, and I will go at the top and add them. We will go back inside the internet, and we will add these things just before the run app. So I will copy this, I will go back inside the application, I will find the run app, and right over, I will paste this thing. I will save. You need to do this in order to use Firebase inside your Flutter app. The next thing to do is to close the application, and now we need to relaunch the application. So I will click on debug, and it's launching the app. The reason we need to do this is to take this into consideration. And maybe you will have a bug just like me. If you go inside the debug console, you can see that the plugin Firebase Core is require a higher minimum iOS version development. If you are doing this on Mac, you might have this problem. And if you are on Windows, you might have a different problem. So I will show you how to fix both of them. First, with iOS, you will need to click on iOS, right click, say open with Xcode. And next you need to click on runner, and change this minimum deployment. You see that we need at least 13. So my minimum is 15. I will click on this, and then I will close the application. And now when I click on debug, this will launch the application. And if you have a problem with the Windows minimum SDK, you might need to go inside Android, app, build Gradle, scroll down and find the section minimum SDK. Maybe they will tell you you need the version 30 or something like this. So that's it. Okay, so the application has launched with Firebase set up inside our Flutter project. Now it's time to... This is what we will do. We will create the sign in, the reset password. I will also show you how to create a new user with the register, how to log out, how to delete an account, how to change the password, and how to update the username. But since this video is not about UI, but more about Firebase, you can create your own UI. But if you don't want to code everything by yourself, you can get the Flutter Pro application on fluttermap.com. But anyway, let's just keep coding. So the first thing we need to do is So what I will do is I will create a new file called the Auth services.dart and press enter. From there, you can press the Command Shift P or Control Shift P and say add dependency. In this one, you can say Firebase Auth and press enter. In other words, this will go inside the pubspec.yalm and add the Firebase Auth dependency. You can do it manually if you want and then press Flutter pubget. Anyway, now we can go back inside the Auth services. Now it's time to create the code in order to connect everything with Firebase. So first you will create a class called Auth services and you will import the Firebase Auth. Next, you need to create a Firebase instance. This will allow you to sign in, create an account, reset password, and all these things. So at this point, you don't want me to write all the code. You just want me to show you the code so you can pause the video and copy paste. So this is what I will do, and I will give you a quick explanation of each step of the way. So this line of code uses the Firebase Auth we created and say .current user. So at this point, you have access to the current user at any point. Next, we need the Firebase Auth.auth state changes. This will return us the information required in order to know if the user is connected or not. And don't worry because I will show you how to use all of this later. Anyway, the next step is to create a sign-in. For this will require an email and a password, and you will use the Firebase Auth instance and then say .sign-in with email and password. Inside, you will give the required information. And later, I will show you how to use this function. The create account is pretty much the same thing. You need the email and password, and you use the function create user with email and password. After this, we need the sign out. The sign out will use the Firebase Auth.signout. So you can see that all of these use the Firebase Auth, and it's why we have created this one at the top. So for now, this is pretty straight to the point, but still don't worry because I will explain you how to connect all of this with your application later. But now we need to talk about the reset password. This one is send password reset email. And this is for all the users that want to reset the password because they have forget it. They can click on reset password, enter the email, and that's it. They will recover their account by email. Next, we have the update username. This one is used by using the current user, which is why we have created this one, .update display name. So you can see that it's a little bit different from the other one because all the other one were using Firebase Auth, but this one is using current user. And you can update the display name like this. Next, you have the delete account. The delete account is a little bit different. You need to give the email and password. If you go over delete, you will see that this is a security sensitive operation. which is why you have to re-authenticate your user before deleting the account. So first we use the email auth provider.credential with the email and password in order to have an auth credential. We can then reuse the credential inside the current user.re-authenticate with credential. This will re-authenticate the user, and now we can use current user.delete. So at this point, we delete the account and we just need to sign out after this. The next thing to do is to reset the password from the current password. By example, if your user is already connected and click on change password, they have to put their email, their current password, and their new password in order to update this one. So this is why we need the current password, the new password, and the email. If you go over update password, you will see that this is also a security sensitive operation, which is why we need to use the auth credential and the re-authenticate with credential before. Good, so this is all the code required inside the auth services. So now we can use these things inside our application. So at this point, I will assume that you know how to create UI with Flutter. If it's not the case, check out my full course. So at this point, we need to be able to call the auth services at all time inside the application. So for this, we need a state management. So there is multiple options you can use for state management, provider, river pod, block, blah, 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 blah. Just to simplify everything, we'll use something already available with Flutter, which is the value notifier. We will define the type of this value notifier, which it will be an auth services. We can call this one the auth services and say that this is equal to a value notifier. And inside, we need to give the auth services with the open bracket and put the semicolon. So now every time we will call the auth services like this, we will have access to this one, which refer to this thing. So we will not lose the information about the current user or the state change. If you want, you can create this thing with provider, block, or any other state management. But as I told you, we'll keep it simple inside this video. It's now time to use this thing inside our application. So let's do it. The first place where we will use this thing is inside the register page. So at this point, I will assume that you know how to create all the UI for your application. So we will just do the logic. I have a button, which when we press on it, we click the register function. So let's go inside this register function, and it's this button. After this, we will call the auth services.value in order to retrieve the information about the auth services class, and we'll say dot create an account. Inside, we will need to give the email and the password. So we can use the controller that are already inside the application. We can use this dot text, and we can use this dot text also. Then I will put my semicolon, and because this is a future, we will say await, and for the function, we will say async. Another thing we should do is to create a try catch error. So I will say try catch. I will put all my code inside the try, and for the catch, we will say on Firebase Auth exception, like this. And from there, we can print the information about the error dot message and put the semicolon. Great, so now when we restart the application, we say get started, continue, continue, and we enter something and register. You can see that this creates an error, so we want to know what it is. The first thing I will do is first I will close the application and I will relaunch the application. Sometimes this can happen when you set up Firebase with Flutter, so that's why I will restart the application. So let's try it out again. Get started, continue, continue, enter something, and say register. So now you can see that the bug doesn't happen anymore. So we should have an error inside the debug console saying the email address is badly formatted. This information is coming from the print e.message. So instead of printing something, what we could do is we could set up an error message and use a set state in order to display this information. So we'll say error message is equal to e.message semicolon. And because this can be null sometime, we will put a default value. There is an error. And I will scroll down to my code in order to add one section called a text error message with a red color. So now instead of seeing this inside the print, we will see this on the application directly. So now let's put a real email, a@a.com, and let's try to register once again. The password should be at least 6 characters. One thing I want to show you is inside the authentication, you can go inside the settings and you can go inside the password policy and you can modify things. By example, if you want a more complex password, if you want to require uppercase, special letter, and stuff like this. This is pretty cool. Anyway, what we will do is we will create a password 12345 6 and say register. So this will bring us to the welcome page, but we will change it in order to navigate inside the application. I just want to show you that if you go inside the users, you will see that we have created a user. Now it's time to use this inside the application. So for this, we'll use the auth services.auth state change. You remember, if you go inside the auth services, you have something called the auth state change. This will give you the information about if the user is currently logged in or not. So in order to use the auth state change that will tell you if the user is connected or not, you will need to create some sort of logic that will either display the welcome page or the home page, which I called the app navigation layout. So if your user is connected, it will go inside this one. Otherwise, it will go inside the welcome page. So how do you create this? So for now, I have created a value listenable builder with app data is authenticate, which is a placeholder. This is not good. So I will change this for auth services. And now we have access to the auth services. This will listen to the auth state change, if we are connected or not. So everything that is inside, I will cut this for now, and I will return a stream builder. The stream will use the auth services.auth state change, and for the builder, we will return what was inside previously. I will put my semicolon, and the logic will be the following. We create a widget, and we return the widget. But we create some sort of condition. We will say if the snapshot.connection state is equal to connection state.waiting. So if we are waiting for the information, then I will display a loading page, app loading page. You can create the app loading page that you want. This will be just a circular. Let's go inside. This will be just a circular.adaptive. All right, so let's close this. Then you will say else if the snapshot.has data, then you will display the home page, which I call the app navigation layout. And otherwise, we will go inside the welcome page. So now if I refresh, you will see that this will automatically go inside my application. Because if I put a breakpoint and I restart the application, you will see that the snapshot have the information about the user, which is a@a.com. All right, so this was how to use the auth state change. But now we also need to have the... So now I am inside my profile widget, which have a function logout, when I click on this button. But we can set up everything right now. I will use my try and catch. Inside I will put all my code, but I will also use the auth services.value.signout. I will put my semicolon and save. This will be a future. So we will say await and we will say async. Inside the catch, we'll say on Firebase Auth exception. Then we can display an error message. But for now, you understand the point. We will just print something and we will print the error.message and put the semicolon. So I will save everything and now I will try the logout and this will work. Perfect. So the next thing to do is to create the... So right there, I have my login page. I have my button sign in and this is just a placeholder for now. So I will remove this and I will say try catch. I will put my pod page inside. This is just my own logic previously. So you don't really need to do this if you don't have the same application as mine. But anyway, the code will be the following. You will say await. You will add also the async and you will say auth services.value.signin. Inside, you will put the email and password entered inside the text field, which is the controller email dot text and the controller password dot text. I will put my semicolon, save everything. And now you need to say on Firebase Auth exception. I don't really have an error message set at this point. So I will say string error message is equal to an empty string, put my semicolon, and I will say error message is equal to e.message. Otherwise, this is not working. This will be our default value if there is no message. So now I need to add this text inside my UI. And I just added the error right there. So now if we try to do something random and say sign in, nothing will work because I forgot to use the set state. So I will say set state. I will put my error message inside, save. And now you see the email address is badly formatted. So now let's try a@a.com and press sign in. You will see the supplier auth credential is malformatted or has expired. So this is because we don't have the good password. So if I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I say sign in, you will see that this will go inside the application. And it goes inside the application because we have the stream builder, which use the auth state change. So as soon as we have a user authentication or not, this will change the UI. Now the next thing to do is to create a reset password from just an email. For this, I go inside the reset password page and inside the function reset password. Then I create this as an async and an await because it will be a future function. Next, we can use the auth services.value.reset password. Not this one, but this one. And inside, we just need to put the controller email.text. After this, we need also to create a try catch. We can put the function inside the try. And if it works, I will just use another function, show snack bar, which is this function. And inside the catch, I will say on Firebase Auth exception, I will set the error message to the e.message. If there is nothing, then I will put an empty value. This is not working with the semicolon and save. Now let's try to put anything and say reset password. And I made a mistake not to put the set state. So I will say set state. I will put the error message inside and save. Now we have the error. The email address is badly formatted. So instead I can say a@a.com and say reset password. And you will see that this say, please check your email. At this point, we could also remove the error message by setting another set state. And inside say error message is equal to nothing and then save. So now when we click on reset password and it works, the error message disappeared. And also, if you put any email that is not available inside the account and you say reset password, this should return a success message because you don't want to say to everybody which email account are existing inside the database. Good, so the next thing we have to do is to create a delete my account, change password, and update username. Let's go inside the page change password, which use this entire code. And now you have the function update password. I will do the same logic as the other ones. I will say try catch. Then I will use the auth services.value.reset password from current password. Because we don't want to send the password reset by email. We want to reset directly on the phone. For this, you need to put the controller email.text. Then you need to put the controller current password.text. And finally, the controller new password.text. Because it's a future, we will say async and await. Just to change things up a little bit, what we can do is we can display a snack bar if we have an error. So we'll say show snack bar failure. But if it does work, we will show a success snack bar instead. So let's try this out. If I click on change password, you see that we need to at least enter something. So I will enter something and we'll say change password again. And you see password change failed. This is because it went into the catch and show snack bar failure. If you want, you can display some logic in order to show what was the problem. But now if we put the real email, a@a.com, I put the current real password, 123456, and the new password would be 12345667. Now if I click change password, you will see that we will have password change successfully. So let's try this out. We will log out. And then I will say login. I will use the email a@a.com and 123456. This should not work. So I will click the supply auth credential is malformed. And I will say 7 and say sign in. And now you will see that this will sign in inside the application. All right, so the next thing is to say update username. You just want to give a newer username and say update. So for this, I went into my page. And when I click this button, it will trigger this function. Again, it's the same logic. You say try catch. Inside, you say await and async. And you use the auth services.value.update username. And inside, you just give the new value of the username, which is from the controller username.text. I will put my semicolon. And if it does work, I will say show snack bar success with the semicolon. And if it doesn't work, I will say show snack bar failure inside the catch, and that's it. So now let's try it out. I will say update username. You see that we need to enter something at least. So I will say update username, and this seems to have worked. So username changed successfully. But how can we prove that it works? For this, I will go back inside my page and we will modify this code in order to retrieve the information about the username. And then I go inside my profile widget. And if I scroll down to the section where I have my code, Flutter Pro, this Flutter Pro is equal to this word. But instead of saying this, we could use the auth services.value.update current user dot display name. And after this, we will say that the current user, we are sure it's not null because we are currently logged in inside the application. And also the display name is a string which is nullable. So we need to define a default value. We will put the 2 question mark and say Flutter Pro. This is a placeholder if we have nothing inside the display name. So if I refresh, you will see that now we have the S. Let's go back inside the update username. I will say Super Flutter Pro and say update username. I will go back and I will reload, and you will see that now we have the Super Flutter Pro. Perfect. So the last thing we need to do is to learn how to delete an account. For this, I went into my delete account page and I will use the try catch. I will put everything I had previously inside the try because we want to do this if it works. You don't need this information, it's just for this application. But what you will need to do is the await and the async. Then you will say auth services.value.delete account. Inside you will put the controller email.text and the controller password.text. For the catch, we can just say a string, but you could put something else. I will say e.toString and put the semicolon, save. All right, so let's try this out. I will go inside my server. I will refresh everything. And you can see that currently we have the a@a.com. Then inside the email, I will say a@a.com. And for the password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Because if you remember, we changed the password earlier. Then I will say delete permanently. And I will say delete permanently. This will send the information to the database. So if I refresh, the user should not be there anymore. And it's not. So in this video, I expect that you understand how to create UI with Flutter. If you don't want to do all the coding for the UI or the authentication, you can get this application at fluttermap.com. This application is 7 years of knowledge with Flutter. You have everything inside and it's all built with clean architecture. It will be the best investment of your life. And one thing I want to show you, which is pretty cool. I know it's not a big deal, but you can change the color of your application just like this. Blue accent, you refresh the application, and all the application is now blue, which is pretty cool. If you prefer orange accent, you can do orange accent, you can refresh, and everything is now orange. Pretty damn cool. If you want an explanation of how to do the database with Firebase, you can click on this video. If you need more information about how to learn Flutter, you can click on this video. And if you need this application, you go in the link in the description. That's it. See you in the next one, and bye-bye.